welcome everyone back. We're about to start the sessions. Session number 1 is on the development of the Commonwealth and the role of the CPA. That'll be presented by Ms. Arlene Bussette. She is the Assistant Director of Communication and Research at the CPA Secretariat. Ms. Bussette will do... How long is your presentation? How long is your presentation? Oh. 20 minutes? No? 10, 15 minutes. Presentation on the topic. After that, we will take any kind of questions and answers from the members. Thank you.
Thank you, Zena. Honorable members, I just would like to apologize. This presentation was originally organized as a PowerPoint presentation. So unfortunately, I cannot show you the slides. I believe they are currently trying to print it, and they will distribute it shortly for you. So I'll try my best not to refer to any slides, and if I do, hopefully you will have it in hand by then. Now, a lot of you may already know most of the information that I'm going to share, being long-term members. And for you new members, well, I hope you enjoy the presentation. So the Commonwealth is an association of 53 independent sovereign states. I'm sure you know of those who've left. We lost Zimbabwe in 2003. Most recently, the Gambia, a couple of months ago. But what is not really heard of is our new joiners. We had Rwanda join in 2009. We work together towards shared goals in democracy and development. We consult and cooperate for the common interests of our people and in the promotion of international understanding. There is no written constitution, and membership is voluntary. A lot of people actually think this is a weakness. We see it as a strength. Those countries, those nations that are part of the Commonwealth are here because they want to be here, and no other reason. The Commonwealth membership criteria. At the 2007 Heads of Government meeting, which was held in Uganda, a core criteria for membership to the Commonwealth was defined, with a focus on applicant countries having one of the following: a connection with an existing member country, complying with Commonwealth values, principles, and priorities, and accepting Commonwealth norms and conventions. Now, as I said previously, there is no constitution, but there are guiding principles and beliefs. And over the decades, there have been several declarations and affirmations which have defined and developed the mission of the Commonwealth. I'll just go through some of these in brief with you. The Singapore Declaration of 1971. This committed each member state of the Commonwealth to vigorously combat the evil of racial prejudice, and that's a quote from it. If I go in a little more detail, it says, "We believe in the liberty of the individual, in equal rights for all citizens, regardless of race, color, creed, or political belief, and in the inalienable right to participate by means of free and democratic political processes in framing the society in which we live." The Herrera Declaration of 1991. This committed the Commonwealth to work with a renewed vigor in the area of democracy, democratic processes, and institutions, and marked the development of a more norms-based Commonwealth. More recently, and actually closer to home, the Port of Spain Climate Change of 2009. This committed the Commonwealth to supporting a legally binding climate change solution. And if we even come forward even more recently, the Commonwealth Charter 2013, and I believe you all have copies of this document. The Eminent Persons Group was established by the Commonwealth Heads of Government in their summit in November 2009, also in Port of Spain, Trinidad. The group's goals were to sharpen the impact, strengthen the networks, and raise the profile of the Commonwealth. One of the key recommendations of the EPG report was titled "A Commonwealth of the People time for urgent reform, and this is the Commonwealth Charter. It was signed by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II on Commonwealth Day this year, which was on the 11th of March. The Charter brings together the values and aspirations, so all the other things that I spoke about earlier, the other affirmations, it's all brought together in the Charter. These things, democracy, human rights, and the rule of law, it's now in a single accessible document. Please feel free to read and see what else is in there. So that is a little bit on the Commonwealth, and just a little bit now on the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, which is the organization that I work for. So as we all know, the Commonwealth grew out of the British Empire, with the Empire Parliamentary Association being established in 1911. In 1948, that then became the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, an organization that was no longer dominated by one country. I really wish you had the slides now, because there's a slide, there's a picture on this particular slide that I would love for you to see. On the left, sorry, on my right here, is a picture of the very first meeting of the Empire Parliamentary Association, as it was then called. And on the left is a picture of the CPA meeting that was held in the United Kingdom in 2011. I find these two pictures are it's such a visual, it's a strong visual image of the change that the association has undergone in those 100 years. It has moved from a male-dominated Caucasian organization to an organization that reflects the true diversity of the Commonwealth, what it is right now. And I do hope you get the slides, and if you do, it's slide 9. So the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, the name change occurred in 1948. For the last 102 years now, the CPA, who are an international grouping of parliaments and legislatures, have been working together to achieve common goals, shared ideas and expertise, and to make a positive impact on governance and development of each member country. Pardon me. Our statement of purpose. The Commonwealth Parliamentary Association connects, develops, promotes, and supports parliamentarians and their staff to identify benchmarks of good governance and the implementation of the enduring values of the Commonwealth. It works in the Commonwealth through meetings and publications to discuss the democratic representation of all sections of society and both genders, parliamentary oversight of the executive, parliamentary involvement in formulating legislation and government policy, the role of small parliaments, parliamentary outreach to the people, and the independence of Parliament from the executive. We're grouped geographically into 9 regions. I'll just run through the regions for you. It's Canada, the Caribbean, Americas, and the Atlantic region, of which Cayman Islands is a part, the British Islands and the Mediterranean, Africa, Asia, India, Southeast Asia, Australia, and the Pacific. Our association is composed of branches formed in legislatures in Commonwealth countries which subscribe to parliamentary democracy. For a branch to qualify, it must be a legislative body. Thus, both national and state or provincial parliaments, as well as legislatures of dependent territories, may be members. Our structure. We have approximately 17,000 members. This is made up of officials, members of parliament, and branch secretaries. In terms of regions, there are, of course, 9 regional secretaries. With us today, Mrs. Heather Cook is the regional secretary for the Caribbean, Americas, and Atlantic region. We have a General Assembly that is approximately 350 members, an executive committee where there are 35 members, and us at the Secretariat or headquarters, where there are 13 members of staff, the Secretary General and 12 members of staff. So we seek to build an informed parliamentary community. able to deepen the Commonwealth's democratic commitment and to encourage cooperation among its parliaments and legislatures. This mission is achieved through a strategic plan, which ensures CPA activities continue to meet the changing needs of today's parliaments. The CPA pursues its objectives by means of an annual conference, regional conferences and other symposiums, inter-parliamentary visits, parliamentary seminars and workshops such as this one, publications, notably the Parliamentarian, and I trust that most of you would have seen our Parliamentarian. It is mostly written for members, by members. And we also produce good practice booklets. I may be able to show you a few of those before we leave. I believe you've received some copies of those booklets already. The annual Parliamentary Conference is a forum for parliamentarians and parliamentary staff from the 185 Commonwealth parliaments and legislatures to exchange views on global political issues and developments in the parliamentary system. I believe you also have a copy of this document, which is the conference concluding statement from the recent conference held in South Africa. You should all have copies of this. And if you take a read, you will see some of the things that your fellow parliamentarians discussed during that conference. The conference period encompasses meetings of the Association's General Assembly, the Executive Committee, small branches members, the Commonwealth women parliamentarians, and parliamentary clerks and secretaries. And as I said, the 59th Commonwealth Parliamentary Conference took place in South Africa in September this year. I think the last conference, the last CPC took place in the Caribbean. I believe it was 98 or 99 in Trinidad and Tobago. That's the last time. So we're looking forward for the Caribbean region to hold another one soon. Our areas of focus and assistance. So we provide professional development for members and staff, technical assistance programs for parliaments. We focus on human rights, gender, freedom of information, poverty reduction and sustainable development, financial scrutiny, trade, constituency development funds, extractive industries, and benchmarks. An example of a successful outreach program which we do is our youth parliament. Nearly 1 billion people of today's Commonwealth are under 25 years of age. And the CPA recognizes the need to engage with the younger generation. And accordingly, so far, we've had 4 youth parliaments. However, the recent executive committee meeting that was held in the Caymans in May, a decision was taken that the youth parliament would become an annual event. So it was supposed to start this year, but starting next year, we're going to have our youth parliament as an annual event. And once again, we are looking for the Caribbean region to take it up at some point soon. I'm just throwing these things out in case the Caymans wish to come forward at any point. The Commonwealth Women Parliamentarians. It was founded during the 1989 plenary conference. Its purpose is to ensure that female parliamentarians have a forum to discuss ways of increasing female representation in parliaments and work towards the mainstreaming of gender considerations in all CPA activities and programs. The Executive Committee endorsed the development of a CWP work plan detailing its works over the next 3 years. At the meeting in the Cayman Islands, again, a decision was taken to increase the CWP budget from £25,000 to £100,000 for 2013 and 2014. And this further demonstrates the commitment and support of the executive to the work of the CWP program. At the General Assembly meeting in Johannesburg, South Africa this year, it was agreed that the CWP chairperson will become a member of our coordinating committee. And for those of you who don't know, our coordinating committee at the moment is made up of the chairperson, the vice chairperson, and the treasurer. So we now have the CWP chair who will be joining that committee. The CWP holds its conference every 3 years, and the last one occurred in South Africa this year. The first and second were held in Delhi and Kenya in 2007 and 2010, respectively. It constitutes the largest gathering of Commonwealth women parliamentarians and is open to all women delegates attending the plenary conference. The significance of this year's conference was the election of a new CWP chairperson in the person of the Honorable Rebecca Kadaga, who is the Speaker of Uganda. And she succeeds the Honorable Boyd Knights, who will be joining us later today, the Speaker of Dominica. The first CWP chairperson was the Honorable Lindiwe Maseko, who is the Speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, and she was followed by the Honorable Kashmala Tariq, who was a member of Parliament from Pakistan. Our print and electronic publications help us to reach all our members. Our regular communication includes the Parliamentarian, as I mentioned earlier. We have newsletters, CPA updates, and we have a service called the Parliamentary Information and Reference Center, where we provide research facilities to all our parliaments. What we've discovered over the years is that a lot of our parliaments are under-resourced when it comes to research. So we provide that service to members. And I guess because of the nature of the CPA, we are in a unique position to offer comparative analysis from the whole Commonwealth family. And of course, we are, I guess, like with any other organization, we wouldn't have a presence if we weren't on the internet. We're available on Twitter, Facebook, Flickr. You can also find us. The association's secretariat is located in London. We have an open door policy, so please feel free to visit us anytime you are there. The staff of 13, headed by the Secretary General, Dr. William F. Shija, who is our CEO. He's responsible for interpreting and implementing its policies and enhancing its activities and international relations. He's the secretary to the annual plenary conference. We maintain close relations with all our branches and promote liaison and cooperation amongst them. Reporting and responsible to the Secretary General are two directorates, responsible for communications and research and for finance and administration. But I guess like any other organization, the CPA itself is also growing, and we have recently gone through a restructuring. So effective January 2014, these two directorates are not going to be in existence anymore. We are going to then have the directorates of program and finance. And that takes effect in 2014. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. I see you are getting the slides. Please take a look at slide 9. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And if I'm unable to answer it, I'm sure I'll get you an answer before the end of the seminar. Thank you. Easy questions, please.
Madam Presenter,
Yes.
in your presentation, you made mention to a constituency fund,
Yes.
which does not exist within this jurisdiction. So perhaps, if you're able, you may be able to share the experiences of other jurisdictions from members' knowledge.
Okay. So Constituency Development Fund, as Madam Speaker correctly says, it's not a fund that exists in quite a few Commonwealth jurisdictions, but it does in others. We held the first meeting to look at constituency development funds in Jamaica. Jamaica is one of the parliaments that does have CDFs. I believe you should have a brochure. It should have been given to you on CDFs. Some of the other jurisdictions that have CDFs are in Africa, Kenya. In the Pacific, Solomon Islands is now considering implementing it. It's basically a pool of money that is given to members of parliament to assist with their constituencies. What we've tried to do is to find good practice. It has been plagued, I guess, in some jurisdictions with notions of corruption. So we are trying to identify these benchmarks of good practice. Thank you. I will have to come back to you on that. I will take note of that, though. What's the source of the funds, the CDFs? So maybe Ms. Cook. For the CDFs. Mrs. Cook. Oh, sorry, I've taken your job.
I'm there now? Okay, we have a CDF in Jamaica, and it's the source of the fund is government funds. But what members of parliament found that they couldn't get small things done in their community. They had to go through different ministries. So each member of parliament is allocated a set sum of money, and it's right across. Everybody gets the same amount. And we have a parliamentary committee. There's a secretariat that in the office of the Prime Minister that administers it, and they consult. There's a parliamentary committee that sits down and goes through with the secretariat, you know, how the thing should be allocated, and they have guidelines as to the kinds of projects that can be covered under this the CDF. I think it's one of the few things that we have consensus among the parliamentarians, that it's something that works. It's not, some persons at the outset described it as pork barrel politics, but I think it's something that helps everybody, and so the members are all at one with it, and it's well administered. So it's something that's workable, and you know, there's in the case of Jamaica, there's no consideration that there's any taint, you know, any corruption associated with it.
Son? Yeah. Good morning. In Trinidad and Tobago, there is an attempt to introduce the Constituency Development Fund, but it has come under some severe opposition from the opposition in particular. The idea was to allocate to each member of parliament, and there are 41 in the House of Representatives, a sum of $10 million, TT, not US. So it would serve to assist members of parliament in addressing projects that are of an immediate concern and interest to their constituents. But it has come under some criticisms, and it was felt by forces opposed to it that said money, which would have amounted to about $410 million all told, be channeled in local government. It was felt that local government probably could use that money to do and to address a number of projects on a nationwide basis. But it is a discussion that is ongoing. I know legislation has been drafted. It has not yet reached the Parliament, and I don't know exactly when it will arrive, but I know that there's ongoing discussions in Trinidad and Tobago as to the efficacy of introducing such a fund.
Sorry, if I may. What we found at the Secretariat in the work that we have done on CDFs, what Speaker Mark has spoken about is one of the problems that most jurisdictions have when it comes to CDFs. It's the whole element of transparency and how that is addressed, and that is a major issue with CDFs.
If I might. You're speaking to the experience in Jamaica. What kind of audit trail does it follow, and so that we can understand a little bit better, who actually administers? You say the funds are allocated to each elected member, so therefore that elected member decides on how those funds are spent and who spends them.
Okay, the members don't get the money in their hands. There's a secretariat, and as I said, it's a bipartisan parliamentary committee that they go through. They have established criteria for the kinds of projects that can be undertaken. and the fund is actually subject to audit. So.
Just one more question then. Having had the experience in Jamaica, would you have an opinion, or would you be able to proffer an opinion? How do you think that would work in much smaller jurisdictions, such as the Cayman Islands?
Well, I don't think the question of scale has anything to do with it. I just think it's just to make sure that you know the kinds of projects you want to do. You have it's well supported by a secretariat, and of course the projects are done through agencies like the SDF, the Social Development Commission, SDC, and existing structures. And so but the secretariat is the coordinating body. And I don't think it wouldn't be unworkable in a smaller jurisdiction than Jamaica. I think it's just a question of how it is administered.
You speak about a secretariat that's made up of members of government only, or is there private sector involvement where there's sort of like a board of trustee type relationship there that takes in the requests, assesses them by way of the criteria, and then determines how much and who to give the money to? Is that my understanding of how it works?
Okay, the secretariat is not comprised of parliamentarians. It's just a real working functional office that coordinates the projects. They assess them, do a preliminary assessment, and they bring it. The bipartisan committee of parliament is sort of like the board, so that they approve the things based on what they have agreed are the criteria for CDF and projects, and so they're like channeled through the secretariat, vetted, initial vetting, and then it comes to the committee. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.